momentum this morning for advocates of same-sex marriage after a federal judge ruled Pennsylvania's ban unconstitutional. We've been seeing a wave of rulings just like this one. 48 hours ago, Oregon's ban was overturned. Before that, it was Arkansas and Idaho. That's 4 rulings in favor of same-sex marriage in just 3 weeks. So that means right now, 19 states plus the District of Columbia allow gay and lesbian couples to get married. So that as of this morning, 44% of Americans live in a state that allows gay marriage. I want to bring in Chris Geidner, senior political and legal reporter at BuzzFeed. Aisha Moody Mills is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress Action Fund. Welcome to both of you. Hi. So one of the headlines I saw this morning was, is gay marriage unstoppable? I mean, this is unprecedented. It's moving at the speed of light, Chris. Is there anything that could throw up a brick wall?
Well, I mean, we are at this point where the Supreme Court in several of these cases, well, in the Utah case, said we're going to stop marriages while we consider these appeals. And as the cases go up through the appeals courts, we are going to have sort of this period where trial court judges are striking down bans, but we're waiting to get a final word, something definitive from the Supreme Court.
Because in the meantime, we're just going to have this patchwork, aren't we? We're going to have places where you can and cannot. And let's face it, 44% is far ahead of where it was, but still not a majority. The math's pretty easy, right?
Oh, the math is pretty easy, but if you look at the momentum, I think we could all agree that it's inevitable, and it may not be tomorrow, but I would imagine that in the next 3 years or so, we're going to see marriage equality at least take hold across most of this country. And you know, the cool thing about this is that the sky didn't fall. We've had marriage equality across the country for the last 10 years, and initially in Massachusetts, people were like, oh, the children, and now this is going to mean something to my religious values. The sanctity of marriage has not changed. Just because my wife and I got married, straight people all didn't have their marriages nullified. Not one religious institution has been forced to marry anybody that they didn't want to marry. And so I think that most Americans, and 59% of Americans across this country, think that marriage equality should be the law of the land. People are kind of shrugging at this point, wondering what's taken so long.
Let me read to you from the judge in the Pennsylvania case. And I think it's worth pointing out that this is someone who was appointed by George W. Bush and endorsed by former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. We are a better people than what these marriage laws represent, and it is time to discard them into the ash heap of history. Monday, Judge Michael McShane wrote in Oregon, let us look less to the sky to see what might fall, to your point, Aisha. Rather, let us look to each other and rise. This is pretty emotional stuff from legal community.
I think we're at the point now that these judges know. I mean, lots of them say in hearings. I was down in Richmond last week where the Fourth Circuit was considering whether or not Virginia's ban is constitutional, and the judge there said, like, we know this is a byway to the Supreme Court. They know they're writing for history. They want to make sure they're right. They want to make their case. Once they've decided what the outcome of the case is, they want to make sure they put their best foot forward, and they've done so, both Judge Jones and Judge McShane, with some pretty strong language over the past 48 hours, like you said.
Yeah, according to the group Freedom to Marry, 10 states have cases in federal court concerning same-sex marriage, even as we speak. What's next? What will the Supreme Court have to see to take this up, do we think?
Well, what's interesting is, you know, like you said, there are 6 federal courts around the country that are hearing these cases. So I think it's inevitable that it's going to be back in the Supreme Court at this point, and they're going to have to make a more definitive decision at this point on marriage equality, and it's going to be sooner than we expect it to be. At the end of the day, I'm going to go back to the emotionalisms of all of this. At the end of the day, this is about the humanity, the dignity of all of the citizens of our country, and I'm excited to see that even the courts are acknowledging that we just can't treat certain classes of citizens differently in this country. That's not what we do in America. And fundamentally, that's what this is about. It is about the humanity. It is about kind of the emotional connection among people.
Well, it is about an emotional connection because, and I've had so many conversations as I've seen gay friends of mine get married about, they go back to talking about when they first came out and how friends would say to them, I never knew a gay person before. That was, you know, 10 years ago. It wasn't in another century that those kinds of conversations happened. So now 55% of Americans in the latest Gallup poll support it, 42% who don't. It does raise a political question for 2016. Will the nominee of the Republican Party have to support gay marriage?
I mean, I think that's still going to be a stretch, but I do think that there are people. The American Unity Fund has been working really hard, and we have seen success in pretty much every state where they have attempted to get some Republicans on board with marriage, to get some. But the question is, I mean, we saw these primaries last night, that it is still very difficult to win a primary in the Republican Party while you're putting forward a position in support of marriage equality.
Well, I'll say this, in 2016 for the presidential, you can't be against LGBT people. So I would say that they may not be out there campaigning for, but they certainly can't be against.
Well, I think now, I mean, we're now more than 12 hours since the ruling in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania Governor Corbett has still not issued a statement.
Yeah.
He has said nothing. AG Kathleen Kane, who is not defending the marriage ban, issued a statement minutes after the ruling came down. Governor Corbett, who's defending the ban, has said nothing. He's reviewing the ruling.
Chris Geidner, Aisha Moody Mills, to be continued, but what a great conversation. Thank you.